We love it when monsters kill people. And one of my favorite YouTubers, Grumpy Andrew's Horror House, did a top 10 Michael Myers kills. And it got me thinking, what about the monsters that started the horror genre? The Universal Monsters. This name refers to the movie monsters created by Universal Studios in the 1920s through the 1950s. Now, because of film censorship on violence, and because these movies tended to be more story-driven, they usually don't kill as many people as the slasher monsters do, which is why I'm doing them as a group. However, I think they still do pretty well for themselves. Ready to show them how it's done, boys? I'll take that as a yes. So now it's time for murder, violence, and blood. All in glorious black and white, because here are the top 10 Universal Monster kills. Shh. Number 10 is when the Phantom drowns Philippe in the silent film version of The Phantom of the Opera. Lon Chaney as the Phantom loves his ghoulish pranks. He makes a chandelier fall. He has a torture chamber. But my favorite is when he drowns Philippe, because it's so creative. When the Phantom gets the signal that someone is down in the sewer, he takes his handmade snorkel device and goes underwater to sneak up on him. As he approaches the boat, the snorkel is like a shark fin, getting closer and closer, building suspense. He looks even creepier in the water, and takes such delight in killing him, it's silent, but his expressions and gestures are just beaming. The Phantom's style and attitude make this kill anything but all wet. Our number 9 kill is when Frankenstein's monster kills Maria's parents in The Bride of Frankenstein. The monster killing little Maria in the first film is the most poignant death in Frankenstein. So in an ironic twist that absolutely sets the tone for the movie, her parents' murder is the funniest death in Bride. The director, James Whale, had this dark and campy sense of humor, and he just reveled in going against film censorship. In fact, the original cut for Bride had a whopping 21 deaths. They had to cut it down to 10. And this scene is the epitome of his style. In the first film, the deaths are more spaced out, but The Bride of Frankenstein is crazy. So these parents die one after the other. Hans is the first to go. Come home, Hans. Nothing can bring our little Maria back to us. Why do you stay here?
I want to see with me own eyes. If I could see his blackened bones, I could sleep at night.
It's a hoot. The monster is so into killing him. It's played mostly scary, with the main laugh coming from this owl's mundane reaction to the violence. But it sets up the more extreme humor of the death of the mother. Hans! Hans! Where are you? Hans! I hear you! Here, give me your hand, Hans! The owl gives the same reaction, and her body just bounces into the water. It's the funniest corpse you've ever seen. It's dark, twisted, and hilarious. Well, I hope you're in the mood for more biting humor, because number 8 is when Count Dracula bites Lucy in Dracula. Dracula had been a play in England before Bela Lugosi played it on Broadway and then the movie. And one of his innovations was he brought a sexiness to this evil vampire. And when he kills Lucy, it's a combination of sex and death. Lucy is infatuated with this charming count from Transylvania. He stalks her from outside and uses his hypnotic powers to lull her to sleep. When he goes in, his strange gestures and intense stare make him seem unnatural and undead, but he's also exotic and handsome.
Took the form of a vampire bat and lured innocent girls to a fate truly worse than death.
Another death. A natural loss of blood that we've been powerless to check. And on the throat of each victim, the same 2 marks. The scene ends before he actually bites her, and it looks like he might kiss her. But then it immediately follows with the scene of Lucy's dead body. So the romance will lure you in, but Dracula will always kill you. Lucy is not the only one who sleeps with the fishes. So does the Gill Man. And number 7 is when the creature kills Chris the dog in Revenge of the Creature. AKA, the creature goes on spring break. This was made in crazy 1955. Now the 50s was considered the birth of the American teenager. And perhaps because of a combination of a greater importance of that teenage audience and the fact that film censorship was starting to loosen up, there's an early slasher element to the creature's kills. This one parallels Grumpy Andrew's List when Michael Myers kills a dog, because there is something savage about killing an attack dog with your bare hands. Like a good slasher kill, this is scary and sexy, with the creature walking up to Helen's hotel room. Chris the dog knows something is wrong and starts to cry. Helen ignores it and continues to take her clothes off. You dog, you! The creature, and the boys in the audience, stare at her in her underwear. Then she goes in the shower. The creature goes after her, but is stopped by Chris. Chris. The actual kill happens off screen, but you hear it happening. And then a little bit later, they show you the dead dog. Now, usually in old movies, dead bodies look kind of fake, but this dead dog looks real to me. With that little bit of blood on its mouth, it sends a chill down my spine every time I see it. And knowing he did it, it makes the creature scarier. And you don't know who he's going to kill next. The number 6 kill is the Invisible Man destroying a train in The Invisible Man. This is the most outrageous Universal monster kill. Now, Jack Griffin isn't just invisible, he's also insane, because of the drug monocaine, which is part of the invisibility formula. Now, early on in the movie, he mentions that he might destroy a train. We might even wreck a train or two. Just these fingers are on the signalman's throat, that's all. But when he says it, you're thinking, this is an old movie, they're spending all their money on the invisibility effects, they're not really going to do it. But sure enough, they do. And I love all the details. The guy gets hit on the head, the levers move on their own, and then the train rides off the cliff.
Oh, to make multitudes run, squealing in terror at the touch of my little invisible finger.
They did it with models, and it looks so cool. Later we find out he killed 100 people with this train wreck. However, the scene is relatively short, which I like because it makes it seem like this mass killing is just a tiny, insignificant detail to his overall plan. Choo-choo! All aboard to the Black Lagoon! For our number 5 is when the creature kills the 2 men in the tent in The Creature from the Black Lagoon. I think Steven Spielberg must have loved The Creature, because I could see its influence on Jaws and Jurassic Park. This scene in particular is a predecessor of the Velociraptor attack and the opening of Jurassic Park. It's the creature's first kill and first scene in the story. It begins with the creature's hand coming out of the water. We hear the creature theme music. Then they shoot from the creature's point of view as he gets closer and closer to the campsite. It's exciting and scary in 2D, but even more so in 3D as it was originally released. Then the creature goes inside the tent. You see the shaking of the tent, you see the fear in their faces, and you hear their screams, and you just imagine what's going on inside that tent. Just like in Jaws, they're building anticipation for the creature's reveal. So in this scene, you only see his hands and his arms, and you find out how strong he is. And it certainly builds suspense. However, he is such a groovy looking monster. I mean, he was really the alien or the predator of its day. That I actually like the fact that you have a chance to just admire the hands and the arms. They're creepy on their own. And in my book, it makes this kill a big splash.
Number 4 is another big splash, when the Invisible Man kills Kemp in The Invisible Man.
This is the best funny death in a Universal Monster movie. Now, the Invisible Man is a crazy psychopath, but he's also tons of fun, like a predecessor to Freddy Krueger. Now, the director James Whale always thought it was important to find ways to suggest the Invisible Man's presence, usually through special effects by having things move on their own. So whenever he kills someone, it's always groovy to look at. Plus, with James Whale's dark sense of humor, the Invisible Man always has something funny to say while doing it. So you actually like seeing him kill people. On the other hand, we don't like Kemp. He's tried to make the moves on the Invisible Man's girlfriend, and we want to see him get it.
Believe me, as surely as the moon will set and the sun will rise, I shall kill you tomorrow night.
After he says this, we're left wondering, is he going to be able to do it or not? The police concoct this elaborate plan to save Kemp, where he disguises himself as a policeman and drives off into the country. But while he's driving, the Invisible Man is in the car with him, and has been with him the entire time, which is very eerie. And as he enacts his revenge, he makes comments and jokes about the situation.
I hope your car's insured, Kemp. I'm afraid there's going to be a nasty accident in a minute. Goodbye, Kemp.
To walk into the gold vaults of the nations, into the secrets of kings, into the holy of holies.
It's such an elaborate way to kill someone, and there are so many special effects. The car catches on fire and you hear Kemp screaming, so it's scary. But then you hear the Invisible Man's crazy laugh, so it's funny too. And you're laughing as Kemp is getting burnt to death. It's dark humor at its finest. Number 3. A grave robber finds himself in a hairy situation when he's killed by the Wolfman in Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. These movies don't have the violence or the shocks of the slasher movies. What makes these movies creepy is the atmosphere. And this is the most atmospheric kill. This kill happens in the opening scene. Now, the Wolfman died in the last one, but tonight is a full moon. We're in a creepy cemetery. There's eerie music, strange camera angles, and anything can happen in a shadowy black and white horror movie. It's the kind of thing that classic horror fans love.
The two grave robbers enter the Talbot family mausoleum and plan to rob Larry Talbot's, the Wolfman's, grave. They make the scene go as long as they can. They find the wolfbane on Larry's coffin. They recite the werewolf poem, and they show the moon. As this is happening, they're building suspense and mood, and giving you time to like the characters. And these are good character actors, so they're able to do that quickly. Then, inside the coffin, we see Larry's hand move. First the ring. I thought the dead was stiff. Shut up! Go!
It's holding me! Help me! Help me! Alive! Don't leave me! The actual kill happens off screen, but it works in its favor.
because they build up the mood and suspense so well and cut the scene at such a scary part with the hand coming out that you're able to complete the kill in your own mind. And when you're given the right tools, like you are here, you're able to imagine something much more vicious and horrible than they could ever show. This is especially true for the Wolfman, because he could really tear you apart, and you could picture something really freaky. But they can't come close to showing it in a 1940s movie. As an opening kill, it's perfect. It's scary, it sets the atmosphere, and it whets your appetite to see more. And it's such an exciting way to bring the Wolfman back to life. In fact, it's so exciting that 40 years later, Hollywood did it again, and that's how they brought Jason back in Friday the 13th Part 6. Yummy. It looks like someone has ordered their last meal, because number 2 is When Dracula Kills Renfield in Dracula. First of all, I love the way it's staged. It's set in Dracula's home in England, Carfax Abbey. It's gothic, spooky, and an extension of Dracula's personality. No one could build a scary set like Universal. And Dracula, Mina, and Renfield are all standing on this enormous, steep stairway with no banisters. The scene happens near the end of the movie. Bela Lugosi has made this ultimate evil vampire totally believable, and his eyes alone are terrifying.
I am Dracula.
Now, Dwight Frye as Renfield has created this character that is creepy, funny, and crazy, and is Dracula's slave with no will of his own.
Rats. Thousands. Millions of them.
But is also torn and wanted to save Mina. We care about him. And now this tortured soul is begging for his life. Not because he's afraid, but because of the things he's done against his will. And Dracula is unflinching and solely focused on killing him as he descends the stairs.
I didn't lead them here, master! I didn't know! I swear! No! Flint! I'm loyal to you, master! I'm your slave! I didn't betray you! Oh no, don't kill me! Punish me, torture me, but let me live! I can't die with all those lives on my conscience, all the blood on my hands!
It's simple, but it's all the drama behind it. It's Renfield at his most desperate, and Dracula at his most evil. Now, the director Todd Browning believed that plausibility made things scarier, and he filmed Dracula in a very unflashy way, which he sometimes gets criticized for. Plus, as an early sound movie, there's no background music. So this scene has a strange reality to it that makes it seem more brutal. Adding to this is even though the threat of violence is very much part of Bela Lugosi's portrayal, there is almost no on-screen violence in Dracula. And because they've held back, this scene seems more violent than it actually is. Now for the number 1 Universal monster kill, when the monster kills the little girl Maria in Frankenstein. This is a beautiful and tragic scene with 2 poignant performances. Boris Karloff as the monster has a criminal brain, he's ugly, he can't speak, and he's brand new to the world, but has been abandoned by his creator, and has known nothing but cruelty, and you feel so much for him. Then the little girl Maria, played by Marilyn Harris, asks the monster to play with her, and the monster actually makes a friend, and there's a genuineness to their friendship, and you feel it. Boris was a sweetheart, but in 1931, that makeup looked scary. But when they were getting ready to go to the location at Malibu Lake, Marilyn went right up to Boris and said, "May I ride with you?" And Boris replied, "Would you, darling?" Marilyn's mother was abusive and really a terrible person, but she instantly bonded with Boris as the monster. She said it was like magic. In this scene, they're throwing flowers in the lake and making them float. The monster is a little confused by the game, but for the first time in his life, he's happy and smiling. Then they're out of flowers. So thinking she'll float too,
The monster throws Maria in the water, and she drowns. Because he doesn't know anything about the world, he's killed his only friend, and he can't get help. Scared and confused, the monster runs away. Maria's father carries her lifeless body into town, and then the villagers go after the monster. The scene is heartbreaking, so much so that Boris tried to convince the director, James Whale, that the dear old monster shouldn't kill Maria, and it would show the innocence of the character. And all of the crew were so moved by the scene that they were on Boris's side. James Whale said no, that this is part of the ritual, which was correct. However, the night that Boris had to carry Colin Clive up the hill, James Whale, in revenge, made him do it dozens of times, which permanently messed up Boris's back.
Not only is it the most touching Universal monster kill, it is also one of the most touching scenes in not just horror, but in all film history. When I said show 'em how it's done, boys, I wasn't just being cute. Many of these Universal monster kills have inspired kill scenes in more recent horror films. And while the more basic kills, like when a monster strangles someone, isn't as scary as what happens today, when the old ones rely on suspense, atmosphere, character, and sometimes even humor, they are often even more effective. So, thank you for watching Dusty Old Movies, and have a spectacular day!